Everyone in the restaurant swore it was just another quiet night, until the doors burst open and the most feared mafia boss in the city walked in with his Sicilian father. And that was the exact moment our shyest waitress, a girl who could barely speak above a whisper, stepped forward and greeted the old man in perfect, intimate Sicilian dialect. The entire room froze. Glasses stopped midair. Even the mafia boss himself stared at her like she had just spoken a childhood secret only Sicilians knew. None of them could imagine how that single greeting would change her life, or how it would flip the fate of every person in that restaurant. Mila Carbone had been working at Bella Fortuna for 8 months, and in those 8 months, she had mastered one thing: silence. It wasn't that she disliked people. It was that people overwhelmed her. Too many eyes, too many expectations, too many chances to say something wrong. She was the kind who apologized even when someone else bumped into her. She had moved to the city alone, running from a childhood marked by tension and loss. Her mother, a full-blooded Sicilian, used to tell her stories of old traditions, ancient songs, and dialects that only small mountain villages remembered. But when her mother died, Mila stored every memory like glass in her chest, beautiful but sharp. She rarely spoke Sicilian anymore. She rarely spoke at all. That night at Bella Fortuna, she was trying to calm her shaking hands as she polished wine glasses. She told herself it was just another shift, just another night she'd slip through quietly, unnoticed. But the air felt strange, thick with anticipation. Something was different. She just didn't know what. Her co-workers whispered before the dinner rush. "He's coming tonight," said Marco, one of the servers. "Who?" Mila asked, her voice barely audible. "Don Ferrante." "The mafia boss," Marco whispered dramatically. "And he's bringing his Sicilian father. Everyone be on your best behavior." Mila's stomach tightened. She didn't want important guests. Important guests meant eyes, expectations, mistakes. She prayed she wouldn't be assigned to their table. Of course, fate had other plans. When the restaurant doors opened, the atmosphere changed. Even the clatter of cutlery seemed to pause. Don Ferrante walked in, tall, intimidating, carrying an air of power that registered like static in the air. But next to him was a thin old man with silver hair and eyes that softened the room the moment he looked around. Mila had been refilling water pitchers when her manager called her name. "Mila, you'll take table 12. Her heart nearly stopped. Table 12, the Ferrantes. Her hands trembled as she approached. She rehearsed the usual greeting in her head: "Good evening, welcome to Bella Fortuna." But when she opened her mouth, her voice caught. She stared at the old man. Something in his expression, the kindness, the familiarity, pierced straight through her chest. He looked exactly like the old man from her mother's village, and before she could think, before fear could choke her again, something she hadn't spoken aloud in years slipped out of her soul: "Benvenuti, signori, six posso aiutare." "Welcome, gentlemen, how may I help you?" The Sicilian dialect fell from her tongue like she had never stopped speaking it. The entire restaurant froze. Guests turned. Forks hovered. Even the musicians missed a note. The old man's eyes widened until they sparkled with tears. "Figlia mia," he whispered. "My child." Even Don Ferrante's face cracked in shock. "Where did you learn that?" he demanded, not threatening, but stunned. Mila felt her cheeks heat. She wanted to shrink into her apron, but the old man reached for her hand with trembling fingers. "My wife," he said softly, spoke the same dialect. This is from the mountains of Modica. Only a few families still keep it." Mila swallowed hard. "My mother, she was from there." A silence of awe washed over the table. And slowly, almost painfully, Mila realized every eye in the room was on her. But for once, she didn't feel small. She felt seen. Truly seen, and that tiny moment, the kind of moment people explode their entire lives searching for, became the pivot point of everything that came next. From that moment, everything changed. The old man, Salvatore Ferrante, insisted Mila sit with them for a moment. She tried to refuse, terrified of breaking rules, but Don Ferrante himself waved off the manager. "You remind my father of home," he said. "Tonight, you sit." For the first time in years, Mila spoke freely, about her mother, the Sicilian lullabies, the hills she barely remembered, and how she lost her family too young. Salvatore listened like her stories were treasures he'd been searching for, but the peaceful warmth didn't last long. Just when dessert arrived, a commotion erupted outside. Voices, angry, sharp. The restaurant staff ducked instinctively. Don Ferrante stood, eyes narrowing. Two rivalmen burst through the doors, and the room plunged into panic. Mila froze. Salvatore reached for her trembling hand. "Stay behind me, Pixarita," he murmured. Little one. Don Ferrante stepped forward, commanding the room with a single glare. "This is not the night for this," he growled. His voice held steel, authority, and something else Mila hadn't expected, restraint. After 10 seconds, the rivals backed down and disappeared as fast as they came. No violence. No chaos. Just the echo of fear and relief. The moment the doors shut, Mila found herself shaking harder than ever. Don Ferrante turned to her. "You protected my father with your presence," he said quietly. "You reached him when even I couldn't. If there is anything you ever need, anything, you come to us." Salvatore squeezed her hand. "Family is not just blood," he said. "Family is who speaks the language of your heart." Tears slipped down Mila's cheeks. For the first time since her mother passed, she didn't feel alone. She felt rooted. She felt like she had a place, and as the Ferrantes left the restaurant that night, the old man whispered one last thing to her: "Your voice, don't ever hide it again. It carries your mother's light." Mila watched them disappear into the night, the warmth of his words blooming inside her like dawn. She had started the evening as the shy girl no one noticed. She ended it as someone who carried a legacy, a connection, and a strength she never knew she had.